Shona, you've been there for several days now. What's the situation like on the ground in these camps?
Well, as you said, people are continuing to pour in from the Burmese side of the border into Bangladesh. On Thursday, we went to one of the main entry points, Shawar Deep, which is an island in the middle of the Naf River that separates the two countries. Rohingya Muslims are still using the nighttime to kind of come over from Burma, as Bangladesh has closed its border since September 23rd. As you said, 15 people drowned yesterday, on Thursday, trying to cross over. And 20,000 others, though, are reported to have made it alive. Those numbers of refugees are swelling in the camps. The camp of Kutupalong is going to be one of the world's biggest refugee camps very soon. Now, speaking of the actual conditions here on the ground, the monsoon rains are continuing. They're set to end soon, but we have seen them every single day. Heavy rains, rains that take everything with them, that turn the entire landscape into a field of mud. Mud, obviously, that's that's problematic for people in the streets and around the camps, but also for their structures, their shelters that they're building that are made of very flimsy materials, just plastic tarp and bits of wood. This is all that people have. They have taken nothing with them when they fled from Burma, and the little that they have is being threatened by these monsoon rains. One last point about rains and water. The sanitary conditions are very difficult here. There are latrines, but clearly not enough, and there are fears of epidemics that might break out any day now.
Now, Rohingya Muslims have been arriving every day for the past month there. How have Bangladeshi authorities been responding to the crisis?
Well, as I said, officially Bangladesh has closed its border starting on September 23rd. However, at the entry point that we visited on Thursday, there was an army, not really a checkpoint, but it was kind of an area where the army had set up a shop, and that they had coming to treat refugees and to take in their information as soon as they arrived. So there are structures in place to deal with this flow of refugees. The Bangladeshi authorities, however, are not just letting the Rohingya in. They are taking them to camps. They must be inside those camps. When we first arrived, we saw structures being built outside the exact perimeter of the camp. And just days ago, the Bangladeshi army basically rounded up these people and put them inside the camp. Part of the reason that they're doing that is because they're saying that they need access to these refugees. They need to know where they are. But you must remember that the Rohingya problem is a very old problem here in Bangladesh. In addition to the 500,000 or so Rohingya Muslims that have just crossed the border in the last month or so, there were already about 400,000 living in Bangladesh. And those Rohingya refugees don't have access to citizenship here. They don't have documentation. They are confined to older refugee camps, those refugee camps that are still continuing, of course, to exist. And aid organizations are facing a growing crisis. Not only do they need to provide for the new arrivals, but they need to continue providing for the older ones.
Now, as you said, the humanitarian situation is dire there. Are there signs of foreign aid actually getting through?
Absolutely. There are NGOs everywhere. There are trucks and convoys and signs. However, they are just not enough to deal with this huge number of refugees, even though that we have heard from the UNHCR or the International Organization for Migration that they're expecting more, hundreds of thousands more Rohingya refugees to come. Still, there are three main problems for aid groups here. The first is accessing refugees that are off the beaten track and that are off roads and that are hard to get to, that are setting up their structures in the jungle or in places that are kind of hidden just simply because they're afraid and they don't want to be known to Bangladeshi authorities. That's the first problem. The second problem is that these aid groups are obliged to recruit locally, and unfortunately a lot of people here don't have the skills or the training yet, at least, to deal with this massive influx and to provide this distribution of food, but also distribution of things like solar lamps, distribution of clothing, things like that. And then the third major problem, of course, is the monsoon, as I spoke about earlier. Now, the international aid groups are keeping up their efforts, but they're clearly lagging behind the thousands of people that are arriving every day. And it is a continuing challenge to be able to do their jobs well and to be able to help these people that are in such desperate need of it.
Shona, thanks so much for that update. Shona Bhattacharya reporting from Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh.